Welcome to the Arrow Podcast. My name is Chris Mulvaney. Today with me, I have Aaron Levine from Luxury Insurance Group. Excited to have him here. Let's go. It's great to have you on the podcast. Thanks so much for joining me today. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Luxury Group Insurance and what you guys do?
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here. Glad to walk in and get my own mug handed back to me.
You got to represent.
I appreciate the branding, although I did ask for a CMDS mug because I like to represent your brand, although I did get the memo to wear the black T-shirt. Yeah. So LG Insurance Agency is branded and founded in 2007. I just realized LinkedIn reminded me how old I am.
Wow,
this week or last week. It's like, congratulations on 18 years in business. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here?
Wow.
And I incorporated in 2007 while I was in graduate school trying to figure out what I want to do. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. I'm always still trying to figure that out.
Me too.
And, I think that's one of the most important things in my life is still trying to figure it out. Because it keeps the energy high, it keeps the motivation up, it keeps us moving forward.
Keeps you wanting to learn and educate yourself.
Keeps you wanting to learn. I'm taking a class right now, and you and I have talked a lot about different books and different things. And as I read certain authors, I'm just like, it's just all about continuing to learn and never wanting to grow up, right? And having fun with it and bringing on cool people to help out with certain things. And this podcasting journey that I've been on for a couple of years. This is the most fun, although I don't make any money out of doing these things.
You really don't. But you get to have a lot of interesting conversations, and if you take a little bit home, 5% out of every dialogue you have, that's great.
So my business has evolved a dozen times over the last quote unquote 18 years from when I was in grad school and incorporated and was just getting licensed in the insurance business. I started out in the life and health space, realized I hated that, didn't want to sell health insurance to anybody anymore. Life insurance was a tough game. And then I decided to go into the property and casualty side of things where I like working with business owners and individuals. And I've been able to build that and grow that over what's more like the last 15 years, 14 years, to build the property and casualty side. And as I've evolved in that, we work more with the luxury style lifestyle of buyer. Right? We want to build that luxurious experience. So we're evolving into more of a luxury brand and working with high net worth individuals. Plus we work with regular people too that own regular homes and drive regular cars, as long as they have an interest in understanding and wanting to provide and be insured appropriately. We don't work with people that want to just have state minimum, what's the legal floor.
Right.
We avoid the legal floor. Right. We want to make sure we have a higher threshold of coverage. So with that, I've also added, I love marketing. I love the game of communicating and creating a message and getting a message out.
Right.
And during COVID is when I started the podcasting journey. And I've been doing different shows by myself and being a guest and really having a great time of having these conversations. But the trick is I learn more having these conversations with a microphone in front of my face than I do anywhere else. Right? Yep. These are such targeted conversations. This is like the only 30 minutes of my day or 45 minutes of my day that I'm not going to be looking at my fucking phone.
Right.
I have a watch on. I usually take this off too.
Because it will buzz and notify
Because
you.
once the watch starts buzzing, I'm like, who's trying to get in touch with me, right? We get that anxiety thing going and, but so this is my focus time, and I love it.
Nice.
I'm amped.
Awesome. Good.
Is that a good back? Did I do okay?
You did good.
Do we need to do that again?
Nope.
No, we're good? Okay.
You said a couple of cool things in there that we'll touch on. You started focusing on marketing. You probably, being as well educated as you are and reading all the books, you've probably heard this saying before. Basically, every company should be a marketing company, no matter what industry you're in. Marketing is a very important and should be the primary focus to grow the business and to brand yourself and add value to your clients along the journey.
How else do you make money?
Exactly.
Right. Marketing is that. And in college and grad school, I have an MBA. Everything is all about marketing is Oh, what's your degree in? Marketing.
Yep.
I went to college to learn how to sell shit.
Right.
How do you go about selling shit, right? It's
Right.
all some form of marketing, whether it's direct, cold, indirect, referral.
Yep.
It's all there, and then we rely on experts like yourself to help really tie it together.
Yep. So insurance, I would imagine that a lot of your business is referral based. How do you get your business now? Is it strictly referral based, or what else do you do?
We are referral based and outbound marketing based, right?
Okay.
So we create a lot of messages and put a lot of messages out on social media, and create a lot of messages and put them out through different networking and education opportunities. So I do a lot of speaking engagements for real estate offices, for mortgage broker offices, work with attorneys in different situations where I've become a subject matter expert and a resource for people that need me. I hate talking about insurance.
Yeah.
If I have to, I can.
Right.
And I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Right. I have different designations and I'm working on a certified risk manager designation right now. So I can talk about it and I don't mind talking about it if I have the right audience that's interested to learn something. But I always want to try to figure out how we can, dumb it down.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to working with COIs, centers of influence, to try to bring more referrals in.
Yep.
Doesn't need to get technical. It's, hey, call Aaron. He knows what,
Right.
him and his team know what the heck they're doing.
Because you've spoken at
Trust,
those things,
there you go.
right?
Yeah.
And then now they want to refer you.
That's the biggest word, right?
Yeah. Yep. Definitely. You mentioned a wide range, not a super wide range, but a range of clientele that you usually deal with. There's things that I learn every day in the insurance space, and don't take this the wrong way, but it's not like a very sexy business, right? Like you need insurance.
That's why I'm going to turn the mug around. We'll talk about that instead.
People need your services, right? Especially people in business and high net worth individuals. You need protection, right? So, with that being said, like, what's the most underrated offering that you have that you're like, everybody should be taking this?
So it's right.
Insurance.
It's everybody needs insurance, right? Why do we need it? We need it because the law requires it, a bank requires you to have it, or a landlord requires you to have it, right? Those are like the three big ones of why we need different types of insurance. So I think that's super important. Now, when you get into bigger companies, they work on a risk management basis. Is okay, how do we reduce our total cost of risk, right? Which also means cost of claims, not just cost of insurance, cost of recalls if you're in the manufacturing space, right? A risk for a manufacturer is defects, injuries caused by products, right? Those are different risks associated. Insurance is one piece of a total cost puzzle when it comes to the expense line for a risk management portfolio. Right. Now, dumbing it down, I don't even remember what your question was.
What's the most underrated, type of insurance that you need?
It depends, right? That's the $1 million thing is depending on who I'm talking to, will kind of work on that puzzle of what makes sense, right? If we're working in a small business space, professional liability is underrated, even for contractors, right? Contractors, HVAC plumbers, electricians, general contractors, whatever, don't realize that they're providing a professional service. They're putting a product together, right? Whether they're building it, manufacturing it, however they're doing it, but most of the time they never have the professional liability. The contractor's E&O is the most overlooked in that contractor space. They are required by law to have general liability. They're required by law to have workers' compensation. They're required by law now to have a home improvement contractor's bond in the state of New Jersey. They're not required to have E&O insurance.
Yeah, which is
so they're not going to
Arizona
buy
emissions,
it,
right?
Yep. Sometimes they're required to have commercial auto, and they should if they're registering their vehicles commercially. They want to have ladders on the roof and different rules around it for DMV purposes. But unless they're required to do it, they're not. Now contractors sometimes are required to do it if they have contracts with public entities or larger developers. that are going to make sure that everybody's got
Right.
the right insurance, right?
Yep.
The bigger the job, the bigger the developer, the bigger the owner, the bigger the government contract, the more requirements there's going to be for insurance. And when we do work in Manhattan, those insurance requirements increase by level of floors in the building.
Yep.
So if somebody's building a 7-story building, you're required to have $10 million of liability. You go above that to a certain level, it goes to 15 and then to 25. So the taller the building in New York,
Yep.
Department of Buildings requires more and more levels of the umbrella coverage, which, people bid on jobs and don't realize what they're bidding on. And I've had this happen more than once where like, oh, we're going to work in New York. We just won a bid. Cool. How'd you win it?
All right. Yes.
Right? You're the low bid.
Right.
You didn't read the contract requirements.
Right. Yeah.
Your insurance costs are now going to go up by $100,000. You have an extra $100,000 in profit to
Right. To cover
wait,
this.
what?
Yeah. Especially when margins are usually razor thin if it's all price driven. So
When it's price driven,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
You get people
challenging.
bidding on jobs that they shouldn't be bidding on
Right.
and winning. Congratulations.
Right.
But you don't know what you've bid on. So
Right.
being uneducated is often a challenge,
Yeah.
or you learn the hard way.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to personal insurance, what's overlooked? Jewelry is sometimes underlooked at, depending on what kind of jewelry you might have, if you have a collection or not. And personal umbrellas,
Yeah.
we like to talk about too. There's a part B to an umbrella policy for your home, auto, and your personal liability that protects you against other people that don't have good insurance.
Right.
Right? Protect yourself before you protect somebody else.
Yep.
Everybody buys that $300 cheap umbrella.
Right.
Congratulations, you got a half of an umbrella.
Right.
Let's make sure you protect yourself. So
Yeah.
that's one of my bigger talking points on the personal line side.
Got it. Cool. Yeah. So I was introduced to business continuation insurance not too long ago, and I was pretty surprised that it even existed. Didn't even realize that was a thing. It's pretty crazy. So what other things that you do, like I've known you for quite some time, so I kind of know the answer to this, but
Should I just sit back and let you
I'm
ask
gonna
and
talk
answer it?
yes,
Just go. I'm just
exactly.
going to put my feet up and we're good.
well, let's get into remarkability for a second. Okay. So like how would you say that you're remarkable in either how you treat your clients or how you get your clients or the type of product, and service you provide?
Gosh, that's a tough question.
Uh-huh.
Man. That's
And remarkability is like lying on the edge. So you're like really, really X. You're really, really good, fast, cheap, smart. Really good at adding tons of value.
so I look at
on
it
the edge.
there's two answers to that question. There's where I'd like to be, and where I think we are. I think we have a great team and we're very strong service providers. I have team members that have been with me for more than 10 years. So they've learned along the way because I absorb so much and I bring it back to them and I give them education opportunities. And they all just understand the one thing: pick up the phone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
That's been rule number one
Right.
from day one is pick up the
Relationships
phone.
or everything.
Right?
Right.
Insurance sales is a commodity-based business.
Correct. Yep.
Right? I sell a piece of paper. I don't even sell a piece of paper anymore. I sell an email PDF.
Right.
Right? That if something happens,
Yes.
you can then look at this
DocuSign or
75-page to 230-page document to see if you might have coverage.
All right.
What's the biggest section in the insurance policy? The exclusions.
All right. Yes. Yeah.
It's 4 pages of definitions, 3 pages of what's covered, and then another 30 pages of we're going to redefine what's covered and tell you what's actually excluded and what's not covered.
Right. Right.
Right? Super important is to understand the exclusions. Now, so my value add is understanding those pages. When somebody has or wants to understand that, we can go through it. And with AI now, with ChatGPT and other generative platforms, we can upload and pull some of that information a little bit faster, which is kind of cool.
Right.
Or we can compare documents in an easier way. So it helps me get to my answers quickly instead of having to, open the PDF, scroll, and then look for different forms and then click on forms, find out what they are. So we can use technology to make that process a little bit quicker, which is awesome.
Yep. Yep.
But where I'd like to be is there's one of my favorite books, which I need to reread, was called Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara.
Okay.
Will Guidara is a chef and restaurateur. He was a mentee or a manager for Danny Myers, who is now Shake Shack, right? He had a number of restaurants in the city and started this hospitality journey of how do we create a comfortable environment, but provide that that black tuxedo style service, right? How do we take our service to another level, but do it in a comfortable space? And that was Danny Myers' journey. Setting the Table was Danny Myers' book, really good book. Will Guidara took it to another level, is how do we treat our customers in a better way and make them feel like they're a part of the family.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So that's where I've always want to be. And we have that relationship with many, right? And my cell phone is on. My cell phone's ringing right now.
Don't look.
Well, not like, no, like, damn it, it caught the corner of my eye. Right. We're able to extend that additional level of service and just that additional level of care, which I think is important. And the word unreasonable is not a negative. The word unreasonable, you take that and turn it into a positive, is unreasonably good.
Right.
Not you're being unreasonable, I hate you.
Yep.
It's let's be unreasonable and let's take the next step. And then I'm going to drop one more nugget in here. There's one of my mentors that I look up to, David Carruthers. I'm part of a group of amazing insurance sales professionals throughout the country called Killing Commercial. And David's written 2 books. One of his books was called The Extra 2 Minutes.
Okay.
So if you take that concept, what does the extra 2 minutes mean? Right? If you could take the extra 2 minutes with your key clientele just to learn a little bit more or read a little bit more and think one more step ahead, how much better does it get?
Yeah.
Exponentially.
Correct, because nobody's doing that.
Right.
Because nobody's giving a shit. They're getting it done, right?
We're getting it done, sliding it off.
Right.
But if you take that extra 2 minutes, you can be like, oh, I missed this.
Right.
I should change this. And, oh, I didn't know about that.
Right.
Right. And you can learn that in 2 minutes, whether it's in a sales call, right? That 2 minutes of creating that personal relationship, whether it's reviewing a proposal that you guys are putting together.
Right.
It's like having that extra set of eyes. It's like, okay, I'm going to take that extra 2 minutes. You can even set a stopwatch. You're like, all right, I'm done. But all right, let's take 2 minutes. Let's think about what we potentially missed. That's adding that extra layer of being able to go the distance. Now, do we do it all the time? Hell no.
Right.
We're not perfect.
Right.
And the insurance marketplace today sucks.
Yeah.
People are angry.
Yeah.
Rates are going through the roof. It's annoying. It's frustrating. My team is frustrated. There was a statistic recently that 3 years ago, about 15% of your clients would call in for service issues and, wanting help and complaining about something. Now it's 50 to 60%.
Wow.
So we have a jump of inbound calls and emails about issues that has gone, 5x.
Right. Yeah.
We don't have the staff, we do now, we staffed up, but we didn't have the staff to do that just to keep up. So we're just trying to knock stuff out. And then if you don't call somebody back in 24 hours, then they reach out again. They get upset. I'm like, but all the big companies are even worse. So thank God. And my goal is to be better than some of the big companies and still have a US based employee answering the phone at this time. Although we have a great offshore team. I just I'm not ready to move the phones offshore yet. Although some of my team members in the Philippines have been with me for so many years, they can answer the phones better than somebody here in the US could. We just haven't made that jump yet.
Got it. So I want to take a leap all the way back to prior to starting your business. How did you become an entrepreneur? It's a big risk, and especially when you're in school, I guess it's less risky because you don't really have a family at that point. You're not tied down. I'm assuming that you weren't married at that time, right?
I was not.
So, does it run in your family? What did your parents do? What do you, or is that even part of the equation? Or were you kind of I don't ever want to go and work for somebody?
I've always been a ready, fire, aim type person.
Nice, me too.
We'll figure it out later.
Yeah, me too.
Right, we're gonna take that risk, and then we're going to figure it out. We're going to figure it out later. So
Real quick, I think that's what makes a successful entrepreneur, because I have friends that are ready, aim, and they never fucking fire. And it's
they
like
never fire.
You have to take risk, or you're coasting. And if you're coasting, you're going downhill. So you'll figure it out. Fail forward. You know,
every book, every guru, everybody's going to talk about taking. It's all you have to take the risk. Right. You have to take the risk. Yes, you want to understand how to calculate that risk.
Yep.
A lot of people don't calculate the risk and they fail faster. Right. They're still failing. Hopefully they're failing forward. We see a lot of people going into business, and I'll have a conversation with them like, there's no fucking way they're going to survive. They're not set up for survival. They've got just enough money to get the doors open. They don't have the money to do the marketing and manage that time post-opening, where it's the most expensive time. Right? Like there's a whole nother set. You don't just have enough money to open the door. You need to survive for 6 months to a year, you know, especially if you're in the restaurant space, hospitality space.
Yeah, first year's brutal.
You know, when you're starting a marketing firm or a service-based business, you can do it home-based. So your overhead is super low. Barriers to entry on the insurance space are super low right now. It's kind of frustrating when I had different struggles that people are not having today. I also don't think they're going to have the success that I've been able to generate. Because I think success and struggle go. There's a tie in there.
Plus, there's learnings that you went through that they don't know about, right? And the evolution of a product or insurance in general educates you on providing the best product or solution moving forward, right? So.
But I've always been, you know, my dad is an entrepreneur. It runs in the family. My grandfather, you know, so it always runs in the family. So my family owned the Windmill restaurants. Until 2022. So I grew up on hot dogs and cheese fries.
That's awesome.
College years and in my 20s, you know, late night eats at the Windmill in West End. And I get the phone call from my dad the next morning. I just got your receipt, $90 last night. So, sorry, Dad.
That's interesting. There was one for sale in Red Bank that I actually considered buying.
Oh, funny.
Yeah, I was old, like, you know, so I went to Monmouth University, so I lived at that windmill over there.
So good.
I
was there. I went to the Windmill the other night. I was at a networking event in Asbury Park. And anytime I go to Asbury Park for an event, I'm like, my drive home down Ocean Avenue, I stop at the Windmill for cheese fries. And
their cheese fries are.
It's not at midnight anymore. It's like 9 o'clock is my midnight.
Which feels like midnight.
Like there's still nothing better than cheese fries. You know, late night, and the cheese fries haven't changed with the new owners. Been super good, but. You know, so the Windmill's been in my family since was in my family from the 70s with my grandfather and my great uncle, and then moved to my dad. I spent my time. I worked in the business as a teenager, bussing. I started bussing tables, right, and then I would flip hot dogs and learned to cook, and then I was very good at it. So I did a lot of catering and stuff through college. We did a lot of late night parties, which was so much fun. We catered at the PNC Bank Arts Center.
Oh, nice.
So we had a big catering truck. We'd set up grills and fryers, and we were in the parking lot at the PNC Bank Arts Center, you know, selling hot dogs and French fries, and we would get all sorts of drunk and have so much fun, just partying. And then there were some shows we'd get VIP lanyards, and we'd just be able to go wherever we wanted to throughout the venue. Like so many good memories with the Windmill. And the Stone Pony, we always had VIP access at the Stone Pony because we did the catering there. And
I'm sure you guys met some pretty famous people.
There were some good times. There's some stories offline that we can
chat about.
That we can chat about. But my cousin worked in the business, and myself, and everybody kind of put their time into the Windmill, which is awesome. But even before that, my dad owned gas station and used car lot and car wash in Newark in our early years growing up. So it's always been in the blood to be an entrepreneur. I grew up watching it, right? I grew up watching my dad go to work, or go with him on Saturday mornings to the gas station. So I was always trying to be creative. Even in college, I ran a casino out of my fraternity house.
No shit.
Right? We were dealing blackjack until it was like one morning at like 3 a.m, someone's banging on the door. I'm like, we're done. Like it got to that level where it's time to shut it down before we got in trouble. Right then we were dealing cards for sneaker money at that point. Not real money. You know, we made enough money to buy sneakers, and everybody was happy, right? Me and my roommate were partners at the time, and we were dealing cards, and we were playing $1 and $5 hands of blackjack. House always wins.
That is awesome.
So it's always been in the blood. But in grad school, I was doing real estate. Working for the Windmill, just really trying to figure out where I wanted to be. But in 2008, with the market fallout, I made negative. My tax return in 2008 was negative $43,000.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
Right. That was an eye-opening moment.
That was a brutal year.
Of like, now what? Now I got to do something different, because
Yeah.
I was also still insurance licensed, and grad school helped me because I was in school mode. I could knock out licensing, I could take a test blindfolded,
Yeah.
and be fine, because my brain was in that school mode capacity. So I would take all these tests, get all these licenses, and have everything ready to go. And I just wasn't loving the real estate business at that point. And I'm like, all right, let's go all in on the insurance game. And that's when I started figuring it out. I'm like, all right, this is what we're going to do. We're going to sell these products. And, we got to work, and I was working part-time for another agency. Wasn't loving how things were going there. And I'm like, I can do it better myself.
Yeah.
I can make more money.
It's usually how it starts.
And then it sucked for a couple more years.
Yeah.
And now we have a staff of 17. We just hit the 17 number.
That's great.
Which is huge, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We were hovering in the 15 range, 13, 15 range for a period of time. And we just had some really good success getting back staffed up. And we're at that 17 number right now, which is awesome.
Awesome. Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Hell of a journey.
Hell of a payroll.
Yeah. I know. So there's good and bad, right? So like I've grown, and then I've like contracted too, multiple times, and depending on like how I felt in that moment, that time. But, what I realized is like, there's these shit stages, we'll call them, right? So when you get to a certain point, you need middle management, right? That's not directly billable, or people that are managing people. And the more people that you have managed people, the less margin you make, right? And you have to get it to a certain point where it becomes this well-oiled machine, or else like you're constantly working in the business, and like it's a low margin, and you might as well have gotten that job and work for somebody else, So
I think about that often. I'm like, I'd make more money if I went to work for somebody else.
Yeah, sometimes. Sometimes that's a thing. You're like,
and I'd probably play more golf.
You definitely have a lot more work from home days, which could might not be as productive. Yeah. So that's very cool. So the Arrow Podcast is brought to you by CMDS, a business breakthrough agency helping brands reinvent and reignite themselves at the core. We work with B2B companies to help them figure out how they're unique and remarkable in their own space, then leverage that information to build great websites, awesome social media strategies, and leadership content that's going to drive more brand awareness to their company. If you're looking to learn more about how we can help you achieve extreme business growth, please reach out to CMDS at 732-706-5555, or you can visit us online at cmdsonline.com. Fast forward a little bit. So you have a family now, a wife, and 2 kids.
I have 2 kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's great. Yep.
Elle's almost 10, and Dara's 6.5.
Okay. So now being an entrepreneur requires a shit ton of time, both physically and mentally, right? How do you stay fresh? How do you stay recharged and keep yourself, in the game all the time? Because, there are situations that will beat you up on a daily basis, right? So taking time for Aaron is really important. What do you do for yourself to stay on top of your game?
That's a good, solid question. I think it's important for people. Everybody's going to be a little bit different, right? I'm a go, and if I'm not going, I don't know what to do with myself.
Yep.
But I also find a lot of time for my kids and family, right? I build everything in. I've not yet let go of controlling my inbox. I'm still manic about it and obsessive about controlling my inbox.
Yep.
I haven't been able to let that go. I think that's on the horizon, is to be able to let my inbox go, and move that to somebody else to manage. Because if I let my inbox go for an entire day without looking at it, somebody random could just show up and probably delete half of it.
Yeah. Yep.
Right. So I'm doing the deleting right now.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Somebody else could do the deleting, and I could find more focus time.
Yeah.
Which would be cool. Right. But I'm not there yet. I'm obsessive and I'm crazy, and that's what I want to do. But I also find that a lot of entrepreneurs thrive in chaos.
Right. Yep.
Right. So the inbox chaos is one thing. Managing people and working with my team is another form of chaos.
Yep.
Right. Until it's scheduled and somebody else is managing that schedule, it's chaos. But I don't know how yet to not thrive in chaos.
Yeah.
I don't know what I want to do next, but I'm actually having a conversation on Instagram right now with Dan Martell. Dan Martell, Buy Back Your Time. he responded to a post that I did, and we're having, I think it's him. I don't think it's a bot, just the way that the response and the train is going. But he's like, what does 10x Aaron look like? You know, and I haven't responded to that question yet.
Okay.
And I don't know how to answer that. I'm like, I don't know what 10x Aaron looks like.
Yeah.
Right. 10x Aaron is not managing his inbox.
Right.
10x Aaron is being the visionary.
Right. And you're sitting on
Right.
top of everything. Yes.
But the fact that I'm able to be as mobile as I am allows me to manage everything quickly. And the fact that I've put so much trust into my team to make qualified decisions, you know, I'll defer to them. You know, they'll say, hey, we've got this. I'm like, well, how do you think you should respond to that?
Right. Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And being able to empower, and that's very difficult in your early years as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, especially as your team starts to grow, is giving up that decision making, that authority, that trust.
Yep. You want control over everything, and you could do it better. Right?
And I can do it better.
Yeah.
And right now, I can't do it better anymore. It was the same
Which
thing.
is
I
fucking
hit it.
awesome, by the way.
I remember the day. I don't know exactly what day it was, but I remember the day. I'm like, I used to know every client, every issue, every need, every want, every policy.
Yep.
There was one day that I don't remember anything.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on anymore.
Right.
I know nothing. Thank God we have good data.
Right.
You know, and the data wasn't that good after we started reviewing it, but having good data is super important.
Right.
So that you can go look at those notes and remember what's going on and then have a qualified conversation if you need to.
Yep.
But handing over that trust and empowering the team to make good decisions and handle situations is the most important thing as you continue to grow if you want to scale.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
If you want to take the business to the next level, you talked about having that middle level of management in there. We're getting close, right? We have Caitlin, who's with us today, handling our marketing and communications, which is our outbound sales engine, right? We're creating content and putting opportunities out there, scheduling meetings, and finding opportunities for me to speak and engage with people that are centers of influence for us that can refer us business, or people that need to talk to us. And then we also have somebody that handles, you know, our people and our processes. Next step would be adding another person in there handling finance and operations to take it to a whole nother level.
Right.
And that's when I think I would hand off my inbox to somebody at that time, would be to really refine, get our processes so dialed in that one, the team wants to follow them. That's important. Getting that buy-in is huge.
Yep. Definitely.
Right. And then making sure those processes are optimized, remove as many steps as you can, right? Elon Musk, let's take a 17-step process and make it 7 steps. Right. How do you do that?
Yeah.
Right. Not easy, but super fun challenge to have in front of you.
Yeah, definitely. I got another question for you too. What does success look like for you in 5 years? Like, do you have plans to sell, or do you want to just grow? Like, what do you like? Or
that changes all the time. So I'm having multiple conversations right now, and I'm open and honest about this. I have open conversations about potential acquisitions for me to acquire.
Okay.
And I have potential conversations for me to merge into a different organization. Right.
It's very, very common in your space, by the way.
Very
right?
common.
Yeah.
A lot of acquisitions, a lot of M&A in my space. I'm at a really good level, but once you start learning about, business valuations and where things can go, I have one consultant telling me to, work on your EBITDA. Let's make sure your that bottom line is as strong as possible. And I have another person telling me, get that top line revenue going and make sure that growth trajectory is firing.
Yeah.
Right. It's two different schools of thought.
Right.
And I'm in the people mode. I want the right people and good people, and I'm going to worry about the rest later. I'm not interested in selling, to have my people go work for somebody else.
Right.
Right. And I'm not interested in making sure my EBITDA is strong and providing bad service, because then we're going to start losing more business also.
Right.
So we're top line growth. But I love the opportunity to potentially bring smaller agencies into the mix.
Yep.
To bring in some of that merger and bring in some more professionals that might be able to add more value as well. But I'm also keeping my ear to the ground to understand what the M&A space is on the sales side of what can I do then next. Because I'm always looking at different business opportunities.
Me too. Yep.
And trying to figure out where I might be able to go. Could I be a consultant and make $200,000 a year and work 2.5 days a week?
Right.
Yeah. maybe.
Yeah.
I'm almost 45.
Yep.
Like I'm an old man, but right. But at some point, is that just enough money and I could be comfortable and happy and not have to work too hard?
Right.
It might be.
Right. Especially if you sell and you're going to put a couple bucks in the bank, and then that'll throw off money on a monthly basis. Right.
Or do I merge into a middle-sized group where we have more capacity, more capabilities, more opportunities to then continue to work upstream?
Yeah.
And then I have that middle level of management built in, because now instead of being the revenue that we're at, we're now part of a 10x revenue operation that has more opportunity for those middle people to bring in more risk management, to bring in more layers of help, to do things differently.
Yeah.
And then my time is more freed up to sell, produce, manage risk, and continue to work upstream and learn from other people, right? So you merge in would be a partial exit, and then you get to that next level where you get the second sale, which would be kind of cool. So you get that double exit.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So if I had to draw it up, I would do a 10-year double exit strategy.
Yeah. Yep.
I think would be perfect.
I had we're both like too young to like retire, and we would lose our shit if we did, technically, right?
I would last a week on an
yeah.
island somewhere. Like, I need something to do.
I had a new client we just got, and they moved away from their agency because it was acquired, and the level of service just went to shit. And he's like, "You have any plans on selling?" And I was like, "Not today. Like, I don't even know what would happen. I would probably like cry if I had to sell the company, but it would be a great like moment at the same time."
Right. But it's always good for the owner, right? So what we find, and we love the M&A activity in the insurance world, right? Because service always goes to shit on the other side.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Because it's all the private equities buy all these firms, and they do it in every space. And they find a way to trim the fat, increase the profitability, which increases the EBITDA, and they can afford to lose a certain percentage of business.
Right. Yeah.
It's built into the model.
Right. Yeah.
And that certain percentage of business is what we've always picked up in the past.
Right.
Like, cool, so-and-so sold to so-and-so. We have an opportunity now because now they don't have their quote-unquote agent with them anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
So
there's a lot of that there, and from our perspective, when we're looking, so I was looking to buy an agency since COVID. I actually just recently went through a process of vetting out an agency. They were asking 2.3 times EBITDA. It was a really great price. However, the things I look at when I'm looking to acquire an agency is length of contract that they have with their current clients, how much recurring revenue they have too, right? So 30%, where like 85% of our clients are all in retainer. So length of contract that they have, or client relationship that they have, like our clients are staying with us on average 10 years. And, in marketing land, it's like 2 years, 3 years tops. Same with employees. Right. And we have people that have been here for 15, 20 years.
Love that.
It's, uniqueness in the marketplace too. So are you remarkable or doing something different? At the same time, like you said, M&A wants to kind of strip out us like human beings as much as possible, so they create more opportunity, more revenue. We have so many processes in place for us, that it makes running the business easier. And I look at that when I'm looking at somebody else, like, do they have a lot of processes in place, or is this everything shooting from the hip? Because then you're hiring generalists that are half-assing everything, and it's challenging, right? And I've been looked at a few times and had dialogue a lot. What really like made me kind of focus on creating clients that are all around the same size was I was working with this one company, Johnny on the Spot, Porta John Company, where I helped grow them.
Yeah, that's the marketing white paper I really want to see.
Yeah, that one. I helped. It was definitely not a shitty sale. That's what that was. A shitty business. But he sold, for quite a multiple, and then got a great second bite of the apple deal as well. But one thing he said to me that stuck with me forever was, my company was bulletproof. I could lose 10, 15 clients, and it didn't really matter to my bottom line, right? So, we used to be very heavy, where we like 40% of our revenue came from one client back in 2015. That's very dangerous, So diversification is also important. So I look at that when I'm looking at agencies or companies to buy. But, I, like you, I'm still trying to figure out who I want to be when I grow up, and I'm always interested in new opportunities. And now, like at 48, I'm really looking to align things with what I'm passionate about. So I care about helping people. So whatever it is, whether it's marketing or business consulting or building high-end hot rods for companies, I'm gonna be doing something I love, right?
Yes, your car videos are much better than the rest of them.
Yes, definitely a lot more interesting.
Try doing videos about insurance and see how that goes.
Yeah, well, you do a good job of that too. So, what's your Instagram handle?
At Luxury Group INS
Right,
is on Instagram.
Yeah, so I love how active you are, not only in business, but I love seeing you ski and your family and stuff like that, and all your trips. And I think you do a really good job of humanizing Aaron in the business, which is great. And a lot of times people are just like, here's my content, and you miss the personal
Well,
side.
isn't there, what's like the marketing, like the 80-20 rule, right?
Yes.
80% stuff and 20% sales, right?
Right,
Isn't that
yes.
like the social media
Yes.
rule of content,
Yes,
right?
that's what it is, yeah.
It's tough in a lot of spaces, right? But like you said, humanizing it. I was listening to a podcast. James Altucher is one of my favorite podcasters, and I wasn't listening to podcasts. I just started listening again. He was on one, and they were kind of bashing the phrase "building a personal brand and creating content."
Okay.
Right? They're like, did Vincent Van Gogh create content?
Kind of,
Did Machiavelli walk around saying, "I'm going to create content today"? Right?
Yeah.
What did Shakespeare say?
Yeah, different times for sure.
It's kind of funny, like content creators today on their Instagram handle or whatever it is not the content creators that were creating evergreen content.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Our minds are so quick to move on to the next thing right now.
Yeah.
That evergreen stuff is tough.
Yes, it really is challenging, and things change in every space so fast now.
Right.
That like coming up with evergreen type content is a challenge. But I had this great conversation yesterday. A client of mine since 2013. They're like, we really want to focus on LinkedIn and less Instagram. And I said, okay, well, do you guys look at my Instagram and follow me? And I can tell because they're like looking at my stories.
Right.
And they're like, yeah. I was like, that's why you should be doing Instagram, because even though like you're not on LinkedIn, you're not like, oh, I'm going to take my business hat off and then go on Instagram and not think about business. I'm still getting in front of them, with my content.
Right.
But it's important both, Instagram and LinkedIn to be human, because people buy from people, right? Like, yeah, they're going to hire a luxury group to do, their policies and such, but like you or your team or the people that are actually likable enough or remarkable enough to get somebody to want to work with you. Right?
Well, it's like you look at the biggest insurance companies, right? State Farm, Geico, Allstate, right? Their marketing, their television and their print media is all about comedy, right? Allstate throws in the tragedy with Mr. Mayhem.
Right.
Geico's had,
Gecko.
the cavemen were hysterical during their time period, right? And State Farm with all of them, Flow with Progressive, right? It's all about making memorable content for when you're ready to buy.
Right.
And that's kind of, we try to do that too, because insurance is I'm ready to now shop, and creating that social media content of being out there.
Yep.
So that we get those eyeballs for when somebody says, when somebody gets their bill, and I hate that scenario when somebody gets their bill that they want to make a phone call, like, oh, we got to call Aaron.
Yep.
Right? You can't stop the machine. And I tell my team all the time, if we're overwhelmed with leads, I'm like, I can't turn the marketing machine off.
Right.
The machine does not have an off button.
Right.
If we turn it off, we're going to have a hard time turning it back on again.
Right.
And then we're going to feel the bottom fall out.
100%.
So I think anybody that's thinking about, their marketing and not getting a value out of Instagram or LinkedIn or whatever it is, it's eyeballs available for the need and being that subject matter expert, right? Especially on LinkedIn, if you want to be a professional and be the SME, I think super important to continue to put that message out there.
Yep.
And then adding in some fun if you're going to use Instagram as part of your office fun. Don't make it all fun. Don't make it all cheeky.
Right.
But add a little cheeky in there,
Yep.
I think is where people are going to add the eyeballs.
Yep.
And we try to talk about some other things than insurance, and we do a lot of events, and those are the things that we want to promote. And, there's probably some BTS up right now from what we're talking about being here. I think it's super important to know that Aaron's out, and we're constantly out and able and ready to help whoever needs help whenever they're ready for help. Even if they text me at 8 o'clock at night, I still respond. 10 o'clock, I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've learned
There
that
has to be a
lesson.
barrier. Yeah.
I had a client once was 10 o'clock, and I was young in my career, and I was a big client at the time. It'd be like 10 o'clock at night, and I'd be in bed because I was always early to bed and up early because at 5 a.m. I'd be out on the bicycle when I was racing triathlon. I'd be out at 5 in the morning, right at sunrise, to go out for a 40-mile bike ride before going to work. It'd be 10 o'clock at night, I'd get the call. I'm like, fuck.
Yep.
Now what?
Right.
And then I'd be up all night because my head doesn't stop going.
Correct. Yes. Yeah.
It was brutal.
Yes.
But at that time, I couldn't set boundaries. I was not good at setting those boundaries.
Right.
So I was taking the call. It was my biggest client at the time. I needed to take the call. Nowadays, I'd be like, dude, what the fuck's your problem?
Right.
But now I'm in a position of higher authority
Right.
than I was 10 years ago.
Right.
10 years ago, I was the need, and would do anything I could do. Now I'm in such a position of authority that I can create those boundaries.
100%. Yes.
And I can control that conversation. 10 years ago, I couldn't control it.
Right. Yes.
Now I can control it.
Huge
People
difference.
need to learn it takes time to be able to be in that position of authority.
Right.
And especially even my team members, I'm like, hey, why don't we're going to do this call together, and either I'm going to listen to you and critique you, or you're going to listen to me and you're going to learn from the way that I can speak
Right.
and get things done. And that just happens with repetition, get better, right? Be an expert and keep learning and keep growing and making those phone calls. And the more times we do the same thing, the better we're going to get, right? That 10,000 hours to become a master, it's true.
Yeah.
I've put in the reps in the insurance space to be, a master in what we're doing.
How do you find your people now? That's always a big conversation we have too here. It's a challenge to get good talent. Like, how do you find your people?
So I was having our recent round, we've added 4 new people, I would say, in the last 6 months. And prior to this round, we had some changes, and then I was talking to a recruiter client, and Ted and I were having a conversation. And years ago, he tried to help me and do it at like a deep discount. And this time around, I'm like, why don't you go and do what you got to do for me? I'm like, I need somebody. And then it turned into, I need 2 people. Then we found 2 people, like, well, let's keep going. So I actually paid him for 4 people. I spent a lot of freaking money on recruiting recently. But we got into a rhythm, and we got into a relationship of understanding of what we're looking for.
Right.
And we're able to find the right people. And now I love the people that we're able to pick up.
That's great.
Because I don't have the time to do it. And my team doesn't have the time to do it. So we would half-ass it and put an ad up on LinkedIn without spell checking or taking the extra 2 minutes to look at it. And it works sometimes, but who you work with matters. Is we find the right people to work with. And Ted and Starbridge Partners was able to help us get the right people in place and do a lot of that legwork for us.
That's great.
So they were super helpful in this process. And I hire people to do work.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's great.
Right?
Yep.
Dan Martell, buy back your time. I'm always buying back my time.
Yep.
And hiring the right people who you work with matters to get the job done. Somebody's better at it than I am, right? And that's why we want to have those people either on our team or as an extension to our team, because we have a lot of people as extensions to our team to be able to get that work done.
Yep. That's awesome. Yeah, recruiting has always been a challenge for us. Like, we'll put ads up, and a lot of times things don't result in what you want them to. Recruiters are expensive.
In your space, it's easy. Everybody's a social media expert.
Oh my God, dude. That's the problem. Is like, we'll get tons of
I have
resumes.
a TikTok.
I know.
I can do it.
I grew up with social media. I could do this. Right?
I ran a social media account for my uncle's company.
Yeah.
I can do it.
It's crazy. What's wacky is, looking for account managers that have been through the website design development process or have built a full web app out. Like, it's challenging to find senior level people that still want to do that. That are experts, and so that's been a little bit of a lift, but they are out there.
Yeah.
So what else is there about LG that you want people to know about?
that we're just here, right? My goal is to be a resource. We want to be there to help people ultimately. My team doesn't want to hear that because they don't want calls about fluff or questions or needs because they're busy.
Right.
But at the end of the day, we want to be a resource for somebody that needs help. And we needed to be able to step back and take those extra 2 minutes to be able to help people when they have questions.
Yep.
Insurance is confusing. Insurance is expensive. And at the end of the day, people are angry about it. We had a guy recently, we sold him a digital product. We have a QBI platform, quote bind issue platform on our website. He bought something from us. And so then the AI, the automation that follows, sends a, hey, welcome to LG Insurance Agency. We're glad to have you. Thanks so much. If you have any questions, please reach out. And there's like a little welcome video that goes in that automated message. Well, I got an earful. You people.
Oh, God.
So he started with you people, right? And so now I'm categorized.
Right.
And then it went into, blaming the government and every other entity.
Goodness.
You made us buy this. This is bullshit. We don't need it. I can't believe this. All you're doing is taking my hard-earned money. And I responded. I'm like, well, nice to meet you too.
Oh my God.
It actually softened him up because he responded again. He's like, I didn't mean it against you personally.
Right.
But I've been paying for insurance for 30 years and, insurance never helps me. I'm like, well, if you want to sit down and have a conversation, I'm more than happy to go line by line and see where it would help you or see where it won't. And I'm not disputing what you're saying.
Right.
I believe it. That's part of it. And we think, it's all government and taxes and insurance are all tied together. In a way it is because the government requires you to buy insurance.
Right.
But we can go line by line and see where the value is and see if there's anything we can remove or find ways to save you money and make you happy because you need this. This is an ongoing business expense.
Right.
And you just pass this expense along to your clients anyway, by the way.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Whatever you're charging people, this is a fixed fee. And I've told bar owners when they're upset about their cost of insurance because liquor liability in the state of New Jersey is expensive. I said, why don't we break this down to the cost of insurance per martini?
Yeah.
And then you figure out what you need to charge more on your martinis to be happy.
Yeah.
You're already charging $20. Can you charge $21?
Right.
Right.
$20.50. Yeah.
Can you increase your prices by a quarter? You did it for credit card processing. Now you're passing those credit card fees along. You didn't give a 3% discount back when you started passing those fees back.
Yeah.
So it's all those little exchanges. But if you can break it down to an individual unit with any expense, you can break it down to the per unit cost. What's my web expense going to be? Let's break it down.
Yeah.
To the most minuscule cost of product. Yeah. What do you want to sell? Who do you want to communicate with? Well, let's take this, new website build of $30,000 and let's break it down to what you might get out of it over the next 5 years.
Right.
And see what that cost of investment is going to be.
Yeah, and I think that's an interesting word, right? Investment.
Yeah.
And we call marketing investments. I think in our industry, especially in your industry, there's the expense, right, or investment, but there's also the cost of not doing it, right? So don't have insurance and get into a situation where you really need it and see what happens. And it's not fun. Nobody wants to be there, right? Because then you're personally on the hook for all this money. So it's crazy. But
what's the cost to not do it?
Yeah.
And can you stay in business if you don't do it?
Yeah.
I think is super important. But taking that time and sitting down and understanding the value and understanding the incremental expense and investment of what you're doing for anything, it eases the pain of looking at that annual number of, you're going to charge me, $10,000 for hosting and maintenance, right? Well, let's break that down.
Yeah. Yep.
What does that really mean?
Right. Yeah.
And does $10,000 really, if somebody's spending that kind of money, does $10,000 really mean that much to you?
Right.
Probably doesn't.
Yeah. No, definitely doesn't.
Not in that space.
Yeah.
To a solopreneur, they're not ready for CMDS.
Right. Yes.
They need to go and build some stuff on GoDaddy or whatever people build their own personal websites on today. They need to do it themselves
and experience it. Yeah.
And do it from midnight to 4 a.m. when they have time to do it.
Yeah.
Because they can't afford to do it any other way and pay the $59 a year for hosting.
Right.
That's where you start. And that's okay too. And everybody's got to start somewhere.
Right.
It's a fucking video game. You've
Right.
got to build up, earn credits so that you can buy better parts for your cars in Grand Theft Auto, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Steal more shit.
It was super awesome to have you on the podcast.
Chris, thank you so much.
Appreciate you coming. How can people get in touch with you?
Instagram. I mean, that's the best way. Luxury Group INS, and find me on LinkedIn or Facebook or wherever it is, and we're happy to connect.
Awesome. Thanks so much for
I
being here.
appreciate
man.
you.
All right.
Thank you.